Hello, you handsome devils and pretty ladies. Andy here. I coach men and women on living lives of abundance and joy. If they can all do it, you sure as hell can too. I'm going to be honest, I sometimes get a little bit stuck, just like a lot of you do. I sometimes feel like I'm spinning my wheels a little bit, like maybe I'm not making progress, maybe I'm trying really hard, but it almost feels like things just aren't clicking into place, and it's hard to see any sort of forward momentum. During those times, it can be a little frustrating because you feel like you're putting in all of this work. And this is something that happens to basically everyone. I don't think I've ever met a human being who's never, ever felt like they weren't making progress at some point in their life, like who's never felt stuck. No matter how much you've achieved, no matter how far ahead you are, no matter how much of an expert you are, no matter how much self-improvement you've done, basically everyone has these little moments of almost like a rut where you feel a little bit stuck. And I've learned something over the years. Whenever I feel a little bit stuck or I'm in a rut, it's not because life is against me or it's unfair or any of that. It's usually because I'm not doing the basics and I'm not listening to myself. I'm not listening to my own internal voice. So I sit down, I take a deep breath, and I ask myself a few questions that we're going to talk about here today. And the very first question I will ask myself is, what am I avoiding? And this one can hurt a little bit because it's almost always the answer to my rut. I'm avoiding something difficult or I'm avoiding a little bit of discomfort. And every single time I'm stuck, it's like there's something that I don't quite want to face, or maybe something that I don't quite want to admit to myself. And sometimes that thing that I don't want to admit is, this isn't working. Or I could find something that works a little better. Like what I'm doing right now is not really working. I'm kind of spinning my wheels and I didn't really want to admit it. That for a lot of you is just going to immediately solve your rut. If you can sort of look yourself in the mirror and admit, and it can take a little bit of courage, so it's okay. But if you can admit, this isn't quite working. All right, would I like to try something else? A lot of the time, that's 99% of the problem solved. And then you can, from there, say, okay, what would I like to try instead? What's something else I can do? Do I want to get some help? And you're very welcome to hit me up for coaching. Do I want to speak to some friends? Do I want to read a book? Do I want to ask ChatGPT? Hey, ChatGPT, I'm stuck in this current rut. Here's what's going on. Can you help me? But you start to reach out to other people and get a little bit of help with this. But that very first step is admitting it. It's kind of like the 12-step program for Alcoholics Anonymous. The very first step is like admitting that you're currently struggling or that you have a problem and then seeking some help. That is the first question that I ask myself. What am I avoiding? Deep down, I think I know there's something I'm avoiding or something I'm not quite admitting, or there's something I'm not doing. Like sometimes the answer is an action. If I'm, for instance, unhappy with, I'll just give a hypothetical. If I'm unhappy with my dating life, I'm kind of avoiding the answer that I know is in there, which is I'm not really talking to a lot of women each week. I'm talking to 5 women a week. That's fantastic. We will always celebrate you guys talking to any women at all. But if I'm only talking to 5 women a week, yeah, it might take me a few weeks until I meet a woman who's single and interested and we go on a date. And I'm kind of avoiding that thing that I know is there. I know I could be talking to more women. It's like we avoid it out of shame and guilt. And we don't have to feel the shame. We don't have to feel the guilt. I'm never going to guilt trip any of you. I never guilt trip myself. And I don't recommend you guys and girls guilt trip yourselves either. But you can just honestly admit, okay, I think there's an opportunity for me to take more action, to do more, to go out there into the world and take a little bit more action or a little bit more of those baby steps. Okay. And so a question that can really help is to say, if I was radically, deeply, autistically honest with myself right now, like just radically crazy honest, what would I do next? Like if I really was all in on this goal and I was just going to do whatever I needed to do to make it happen, what would I do next? And that kind of cuts away 90% of the noise. A lot of the time, the answer is right there, like right in front of you, and you kind of know it. You're just procrastinating, or you're avoiding, or you're running away from it, or you're just kind of pretending it's not there. But you know the answer. You have the answer inside of you, or you know an answer of the next step that you can take. Maybe you don't know what happens after that. That's fine. But you at least know the very next step that you could take. And so you're not confused. You're avoiding clarity. Or avoiding being clear, because being clear kind of demands you take action. The next question I will ask myself is, what story am I telling myself? Generally speaking, when I feel a bit stuck, it's because I'm telling myself a story or a narrative. Like I'm not ready, or I can't do this, or it's too late, or I don't know how, or it won't work, limiting beliefs. And I'm not doing that intentionally, and neither are any of you. It's a form of sort of self-protection that our brain goes into where it says, I won't be able to achieve this, I shouldn't bother, don't try, avoid at all costs. And those stories feel true. Like it feels like a very rational thought in my head to say, I can't do this. But they're just like old programming. Like your brain has been programmed, like most people, to believe that you can't achieve greatness, that you can't do big things, that you can't achieve your goals, because that keeps you safe. Like literally our brain wants us to be safe. And so what I will do is I will say, who would I be without that story? What would happen, or what action would I take if I couldn't tell that story anymore? If I couldn't say I'm not ready? If I couldn't say it's too late for me, if I couldn't say I'm too short or too old or too fat or too this, whatever excuse or limiting belief comes up, if I couldn't tell that story, what action would I go and take? And this is the basis of Byron Katie, one of my favorite people. Her process is to basically say, who would you be without that story? Who would you be without your story? What would you go and achieve? What would you go and do? And that's when I find things start moving again, when I let go of my limiting belief, or even just start to question it and say, is that true? I'm not ready. Is that true? And then I will go and find evidence for the opposite. Like I'll go and find evidence that I am ready, or I will go and find evidence that I can achieve this goal. I will go and find evidence that I can do this thing. And so you're not stuck. You're just narrating the same old chapter or the same old story or the same old programming. I have this video course here called the Play to Win video course. Look at that cool cover art. Look at that cool cover art. Play to Win video course. And in there is a chapter called Everything is a Story and You're in Control of the Stories That You Tell. And I literally talk about this exact topic, about how you can tell a story that it's too late for you, or you're too old, or you're too this, or you're too that, and you have all these sort of doubts and limiting beliefs. And in this chapter, I talk about how to overcome them. There's also this chapter in there called Overcoming Fear, Limiting Beliefs, and Self-Doubt. And again, I have a whole bunch of strategies of how to overcome those limiting beliefs and not just give in to them. Again, this is the Play to Win video course. I'll leave a link down below in the description to that. And you could summarize all of that by saying, you're usually not stuck. You're just telling yourself that you're stuck. I prefer to tell myself that there has to be a solution to this problem. There has to be something I can do. There has to be a next step that I can take. And while we're still referring to it, there's a chapter in the Play to Win video course about that as well. Every problem has a solution, and there is always something that you can do next. The next question I ask is, am I trying to do this alone? This is an absolute doozy. So often, I find myself falling, I guess, into my own ego and saying, I'll just do it by myself. Everyone else just leave me alone, go away. I'm going to do this by myself. I'm going to handle it. It's fine. I got this. Go away. And I sit there sort of running in circles, spinning my wheels, not really achieving anything, or not achieving things as quickly as I could. I start thinking that I have to just figure all this out by myself, that I can't have other people help me. In the past, I used to associate asking for help with weakness. I thought that that meant I wasn't masculine. I don't really think about that like that anymore. Now I know that brotherhood is strength, and asking other people for help means I get to my goal a lot quicker. I'd rather just get to my goal, and if that means I'm a little bit weak or whatever, cool, I don't care. I just want to achieve the goal. But I found that every time I open up to a friend or a family member or a coach, I have a lot of coaches, or someone else, we achieve the goal 10 times quicker, and I feel a lot better, and I don't feel so stuck. You could kind of summarize this by saying sometimes the problem doesn't need solving, it just needs sharing. There's a really cool quote that I like. A problem shared is a problem halved. And that is absolutely true here. Growth doesn't really happen in isolation. Like, I want to be really clear. Basically, none of my goals that I have ever achieved, did I do them by myself? No. I had friends that helped me, or family that believed in me, or coaches or mentors or books that I read, or people that I was paying, or therapists. Like, I haven't achieved anything by myself. And anytime I find myself starting to withdraw into myself and not really seeking the advice of other people, or not sharing what I'm going through, or not talking about my struggles, then I really, really, really start to feel alone. So I will summarize all of this by saying, when you're stuck in your head, go back to your tribe. This is my absolute favorite question of the bunch. what is the smallest step I can take right now? I mentioned the Play to Win video course a second ago, and I said there's a chapter in there called Every Problem Has a Solution. And that is the mindset that I try and take. I give myself permission to suck. I don't have to take the most perfect step. I don't have to solve it all at once. But I just say, what is one tiny little baby step that I can take right now? What is one thing I can do to move forward just a tiny bit? And when I'm feeling a bit overwhelmed or I'm feeling like I'm in a rut, my brain, just like most of yours, tries to solve everything immediately. It wants the big quick fix. It wants to just solve everything immediately. And that often just leads to me feeling like paralyzed. I don't know what action to take, so I don't do anything, or I'm tempted to not do anything. So what I do is I sort of humble myself. I break down that goal or that thing I'm trying to achieve into a tiny, tiny, tiny little baby step that I can take right this second. So instead of saying I need to fix my life, I will instead say I'm going to send one email, or I'm going to write one sentence, or I'm going to sit down and work on this goal for 5 minutes today. I'm going to go outside and walk around for 2 minutes. I'm going to take the tiniest little baby step that I can possibly take, and that action solves the anxiety or the overthinking. You don't need to have all of this figured out, you guys. You just start moving again, a tiny little bit. Momentum doesn't come from thinking and clarity and all of that. Clarity comes from momentum. In other words, don't sit there and think about the action that you're going to take and sit there for weeks thinking about it. Instead, go and take action, and you'll find that your thoughts follow. For some of you, this one might be the most important. Am I being kind to myself right now? A lot of the time, when we're stuck, we're very tempted to insert a lot of shame, a lot of guilt, beat ourselves up, and say things like, I should be further ahead. One of my coaching clients literally said this today, and we had a big, long discussion about letting go of the shame, letting go of the guilt, and not beating himself up. Or you might have thoughts like, I'm wasting time, I'm a loser, I'm never going to make it, I'm not good enough. But those thoughts only keep you stuck longer. The more you tell yourself that you're a loser, the more you feel like one. Do losers go out there and crush their goals? No, by definition, being a loser means you lose. And people who lose literally don't win. That is in the definition of the word. And so when you call yourself a loser or you say you're not good enough, you literally make it come true. You make it so much harder to go out there and take some damn action. You get stuck for longer. And so what I like to ask myself is, what would I do for my best friend right now? Like if my best friend was going through this exact situation, what would I do for him? Would I take him out and go for a little walk and listen to him? Would we spend a bit of time chilling and just playing some video games so he can feel a bit better? Would I tell him that he's going to make it and everything's going to be okay? What advice would I give him? And then I turn that around and I give that to myself. I literally treat myself as if I was a best friend. And for a lot of you, that's just going to be a wild notion. You're not used to being kind to yourself. You're used to kind of beating yourself up, self-flagellating. It's like you get the whip out and you just torture yourself, and you think that beating yourself is the way that you'll achieve your goals, and you think that you have to force yourself out of a rut and almost bully yourself out of a rut. But come on, guys, a lot of you have been bullied when you were in high school. You know that bullying doesn't make you feel good. Does bullying make you go out there and crush your goals? No. When you were bullied in school, or if you've seen other people that were bullied, do they then stand up and become a freaking winner in that moment? No. They get pushed down, they feel awful, they feel like they're not good enough, and they feel like quitting, sometimes quitting life entirely. And so when you bully yourself, which is what this essentially can turn into, when you bully yourself, you're literally making it harder, not easier, to succeed. So do the opposite. Praise yourself, celebrate your wins, be grateful for what you've done so far instead of focusing on what you haven't done. Focus on the victories and don't worry about the things that you're still wanting to achieve. There's plenty of time for them. Just start with the little baby steps and do a little bit each day. If you take a tiny little bit of action, celebrate that. Say, wow, I went out today and I thought about talking to women. That's amazing. I went to the gym and I did a 5-minute workout. I was way too nervous to stay there for longer than that, but I was there for 5 minutes. Massive victory. Celebrate the little baby steps, and then they will start to get easier, and you'll do more and more of them, and they will add up. But if you sit there guilt tripping yourself and shaming yourself and feeling like crap, you just make it 10,000 times harder to have any motivation. Guilt drains your motivation But compassion or self-love or excitement or celebrating your goals gives you energy. What is more motivating? If someone else tells you that they believe in you and you can do this and you got this and I'm here with you, or if that same person says to you, you're not going to make it, you're a loser, why even try? You shouldn't bother. We know that when other people speak to us like that, we feel drained, versus if someone is our biggest cheerleader, we feel energized. And yet we drain ourselves with this sort of guilt and this beating ourselves up and being a raging lunatic with the way that we talk to ourselves. So we can reframe some of that language or change some of the way that we talk about ourselves. And really the thing that helps me the most is to just say, who would I be if I was a best friend to myself? And this is something that you'll get better at with practice. I'm pretty decent at it after all these years of practice. And so if you struggle at the start, that's okay. I did too. But I promise you can do a lot better if you give yourself a little bit of love. You're not going to hate yourself into change. You're only going to be able to love yourself into growth. So whenever I'm struggling or I'm in a rut, the questions that I come back to are, what am I avoiding? What story am I telling myself? Am I trying to do this alone? What's the smallest step that I can take right now? And am I being kind to myself? Or am I being a best friend to myself? Every time I run through those 5 questions, every single time, I end up seeing the truth. Usually it happens on the first question, what am I avoiding? And I end up pulling myself out of that rut pretty quickly. You're not going to stay stuck when you start asking better questions. And this is literally what I do in my coaching. I help men ask better questions. Most of the time, the answer is already inside of you. You just needed someone to hold space for you to be able to see that. You needed someone to unlock that answer within you. So if you've been stuck for a little while and would like to finally break through and live that beautiful life of abundance and joy, tons of romantic relationships, tons of crazy, wild, beautiful sex, lots of money, whatever it is that you want, right now, I have 1 slot left of my big one-on-one coaching at 50% off. So that's normally $20,000. It's now $10,000, and we have payment plans. I'm also offering a 50% off, or roughly 50% off, our VIP coaching program, the group coaching program. Normally that's $11,000. Right now it is $6,000. Again, payment plans are available. Or if you want the more affordable option, we have the Abundance Collective for $200 a month. All of those are down there below, and all of those will give you that brotherhood that you've been looking for. If you've been doing this stuff on your own and spinning your wheels and feeling like you're in a rut, now is literally the perfect time to jump into coaching. Like I said, those coaching options are 50% off. You're not going to get a better deal than that. I will leave a link down below. I'm happy to jump on a free call with you and we can talk through, make sure the program is right for you. We can talk payment plans if you need, all of that sort of stuff. But you are allowed the most beautiful life that you want to live, and I can help you get there. And if you don't take my help, if you want to do this, outside of that, I would still go and find some people to help you with this. Don't stay stuck in a rut by yourself. At least talk to some friends or some family. Get some help. You don't have to struggle by yourself.